Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's tutorial is on the brand new pattern by Oro Rosa Patterns called the Luz Marina Divider Bag. I just would like to take the moment to thank Alexis for allowing me to do tutorials on her patterns. Her patterns are absolutely amazing. Make sure you check out her patterns at her website. I'll make sure I'll link it down in the description below. So this is what we're going to be making today. It's the Luz Marina Divider Bag. I must say this is not a beginner bag. This is definitely for intermediate. You need to have some bag making experience to do this, but it is an amazing bag. Absolutely amazing. As I'm singing after a long day of sewing this bag together. So yeah, it has that middle zipper pocket. It has a zipper pocket here. It has a slip pocket here, magnetic closure. It does not have a crossbody strap. I don't know how you would put one on, but I guess you could always clip them onto these rings if you wanted to. I used a really, really heavy vinyl. I think this was an upholstery vinyl, but it still has that soft look that I think this bag is meant to have. So it turned out pretty amazing. Again, we didn't interface the exterior at all. I go through what I interface with as soon as you get into the tutorial. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. See you guys on the other side. Bye. Okay, let's get started. Let's first go through what pieces you are going to need to do this bag. So let's start with hardware. You're going to need 4 rectangle rings, 2 number 5 zipper pulls and number 5 zipper tape, your nameplate or handmade tag, 6 purse feet, and many, many rivets. I just order a whole package of rivets to do this. Depending how many rivets you want to put in will determine how many you will need. You will also need 4 strap ends. I've already installed them onto my handles, which I have done ahead of time. The handles are constructed in the same way they are with most bags. If you want to see how these handles go together, be sure to check out my How to Make Handles in my Bag Makers 101 playlist. I'll try to remember to put a link down in the description if you need a walkthrough of how to do that. So yes, the number 1 strap ends. For pieces cut, you need your handles, which I've already done. You need 2 main panels. Your exterior bottom, which I have also fused with Decovil Heavy outside of the seam allowances. 4 strap connectors. An upper zipper panel and a lower zipper panel in your contrasting fabric. Or you can use the same fabric as well. Two main lining panels. One slip pocket. Two zipper pocket linings. Now these will be different sizes, just so you are aware. A zipper pocket facing. Divider pocket exterior. Upper zipper panel facing. Two zipper guards. Two exterior side panels. and 2 exterior lining panels. You will note that the exterior side panels are shorter, so make sure that you have cut them on the dotted line for the exteriors, so your lining pieces will be longer. And 2 divider pocket linings, which I have to cut my interfacing to match. That's why it kind of looks off there. All my fabric pieces are lined with medium woven interfacing. I use Fashion Fuse from Cleaner Supply. You can use SF101, you can use Woven Fuse, or whatever medium woven interfacing you like. The only lining pieces that I think aren't interfaced are the 2 zipper facings and the zipper guards. Everything else of fabric is lined with woven interfacing. There is no exterior interfacing for this bag at all. So without further ado, let's get started on this bag. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start prepping for our hidden connectors. So one thing I have done is I've taken pieces of Decovil Light and I have just fused them over top of where we will be putting the connectors. In the pattern it says to put some just under the connectors. I just want a little bit more reinforcements. I don't know if it actually makes them more reinforced, but in my mind it does. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our X-Acto knife and we are going to cut the shape out, but we are not going to cut this bottom line. We're going to leave that open. So let's see if I can bring you in a little closer. There we go. I'm just going to use my ruler here. So we end up, if we cut it properly, I might need a new blade in my X-Acto knife. Okay. So this is what we're after. So the shape is cut out there and there. So you want to go ahead, I'll do one more. I'm not used to using an X-Acto knife. I'm more of a rotary cutter girl, but I don't think a rotary cutter would be a very good idea with this part. I still got a little piece there. Like so. So in the end, those will be folded down and we will have something that looks like that. So go ahead and do that with your other side panel, and then we're going to go over to the machine and I'm going to show you how we're going to connect these strap connectors. They're a little bit different than how I do the strap connectors, the hidden strap connectors in my tutorial video. This method makes it so you can use fabric because it doesn't leave any raw edges. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the rest of those out, and then we're going to move over to the machine. Okay, so now I'm over at my machine. I'm using a new camera setup here. It doesn't seem to like my iPhone case, so hopefully it doesn't fall down again. Guess we will find out. You're going to take your 4 strap connectors. You will mark a middle line down the center of each connector and then put some double-sided tape on there. When you take off the double-sided tape, there's my middle line there. You're going to fold the long edges into the center. Like so on each, and that's going to give us a 1-inch strip. So we're going to do that with all 4. I'm using a really thick upholstery grade vinyl. So I had to do a larger needle size here. I'm using a size 18 needle, but it's really stiff. I think it might be for boats or something, I'm not sure. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take each of these and we're going to top stitch down each side with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to kind of do them I'm going to chain them together. So I'm going to do them all at once. If you see all this oil on my machine, it's only because I just oiled the machine. And then do it down the other side. Just like so, and then cut them all apart. I am super oily. Just like so. Okay, so I went ahead and I did the first connector. This is what we are working towards, and I'll show you how to do it on this one. So I've already gone ahead, and on the pattern piece there is a mark. I just used my Choco pen to do this, that you will need for the placement of the strap connector. So what you're going to do is you're going to bend this down to the back, and you're going to slide your connector in where the raw edges meet in the middle. That should be facing up. So you're going to put that in. It's going to feel like it's a snug fit. That is what we want. And you're going to take the top raw edge there and line it up with that marking, like so. And then clip it on like that. Now I also went ahead and installed my zipper foot. You will want, well, you don't have to. I'm trying to make this so you can see it a little bit better. It just helps get a little bit closer and have a little more snug of a fit. So I went ahead and did that. Okay, so you want to make sure this is sitting flat. You're going to flip it over. And then about 1/8 of an inch away from this top side, we're going to do some stitching. You want to try to not go over this 1 inch line, because like the 1 inch strap, otherwise it's going to show on the other side. So you want to try to keep it within those lines. Make sure it's sitting nice and flat. My machine and I are fighting a little bit today. I don't know why, but hopefully it behaves. So make sure you do back stitch. And back stitch. So then we have something that looks like this now. You can see I went over just a little bit here. That little bit is going to show, but that's okay. Then you're going to grab your rectangular ring. You're going to put it on like this. Put it through, and then you're going to take this edge here and you're going to stick it through that hole. Pull it through the side, making sure this is coming down as well. Your little flap, we want to come down. And we're going to pull this through and match up the two edges of our strap connector here. put a clip in it, make sure things pulled through, and make sure on this side it is sitting nice and flat, like so. Okay, and then you're going to flip it over. We're actually going to flip it over like this and kind of fold this. You're going to kind of fold it back like this, because what we want to do is we want to stitch this little flap onto there, but you want to make sure you don't catch this. So you want to fold it back onto itself like that. This is where you need your zipper foot. I'm trying to make it so you can see a little bit better here. So you want to make sure that's pulled nice and straight. The zipper foot helps get it really, really close. Whoops. There we go. Back stitch. Oopsies. Again, all the shiniest is just because I freshly oiled my machine. So I didn't quite get it under the way I wanted it to. No, it's not bad. So there we go. So now what we're going to do is we have these little flaps here. And we want to secure those. Now, I apologize. I am not a hand sewer. All I could find was this little itty bitty needle. And I'm using super thick vinyl. So what you want to do is just do a couple stitches catching this vinyl here. Oh my goodness. Again, I don't even have a thimble, so this is going to kill my thumbs. I would recommend using a larger needle. Pull it through and then grab the other little tab here. Owie. And of course my hands are greasy, so pull it tight there and go back through and do it again. I did the last one about 3 times and then I tied it off. And that's just to make sure these little flaps don't flap down and outside of the bag later on. Said I definitely recommend a larger needle than what I am using. Pull it nice and tight and then tie it off however you tie it off. Do 2 knots, I think. Said I am not a hand sewer. I could never do hand quilting because it would just, yeah, I couldn't do it. So it doesn't look super pretty on this side, but that's okay. And then what I like, I'm just going to take a piece of duct tape and put it over top of that just to secure those threads. And there we have it. So now what I'm going to do is right here, I'm going to go and I'm going to set a rivet on both sides of these, and I'm going to go and do the other side panel, and then we will come back to the next step. All right, so I have all my strap ends riveted on. They look lovely. They look great. So now we want to construct our outer panel. So take one of your main exterior pieces and one of your side panels. Put them right sides together and clip down one side. Make sure. Okay. Okay, and we're going to go down that seam with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I don't have a marker on my bed here, so I actually use a piece of painter's tape to mark my seam allowances as a guide. Okay. And I still have my zipper foot on here. I will change that out after this one here. Okay. I just quickly went off camera and switched into my regular foot, took off my zipper foot. So now that we stitched that seam, we want to open that seam up. So I am actually going to take some double-sided tape, put it along that stitch line. On both sides. I think this bag double-sided tape is going to be your friend. And my hands are just so oily from my machine that everything is sticking to me, or not sticking to me, I guess. Okay, so then open up that seam against the double-sided tape just to help hold it open. Do the other side as well, might help. If you're using cotton or fabric for the outside, you can definitely just go and press this open. I said I'm using such thick vinyl that I do not know how well it's going to hold it open. So I'm going to put a clip here to help that. And I'm going to have to feel as I go to make sure that it's laying flat. Because I am using such a thick vinyl, I'm actually going to top stitch with about a 5 or just over a 5 top stitch. All right. So as we're going to top stitch up each side, oopsies, we're going to top stitch down each side an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance of that seam, feeling underneath to make sure that our seam is lying flat. So you can see it's all down the side here, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the other side as well. I really hope my camera's not shaking too bad. I have my phone hooked onto a arm that is actually hooked to the sewing table. So if this is shaking, I apologize, but it's the only way I can actually show what I'm doing. So there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I am going to attach the other one to this side, like so. And then you're going to take your other main panel and attach it to the other side. I'm going to go and do those two, and then I'll come back and do the fourth one with you because we're doing it in a tube, and I'll just show you how I top stitch that. All right, so now I have this tube happening. I've connected all the seams. I did one top stitch already for the tube. I wanted to show you how to do that in a tube. I know we've done it in many of my other videos, but we will do it again. So yeah, you can see we've got one big tube. So I'm going down the side, just like this. Making sure I reach underneath just to make sure nothing's tucked in there and that my seam is lying flat. And then just go slowly top stitching down. This bag is easy because it is so wide that you can just totally lay it all flat and nothing gets in the way. And just be careful when you're pulling it out that your needle does not scratch your vinyl. And there we go. We have our exterior main panels together. Okay, so we are all done with the main panel. You should have this. It'll look like a tube. Just like that. You can put this aside for now. Next, you want to grab your main panel lining and your slip pocket. That's not it. Main panel and this slip pocket. So I'm not going to show this part on the machine. My lighting is much better out here. I will do parts, the lining, most of the lining I will be doing at the cutting table here and sewing and cutting, coming back. And then when we get to the nitty gritty stuff where you need to see what I'm sewing, we'll go back in there. So take your main lining slip pocket, fold it in half so it's right sides together. Clip together the raw edges. I cut mine a little bit uneven there, but that's okay. Okay, so we are going to leave an opening at the bottom of this. We're forming a pocket, which we're going to turn inside out. So I'm just going to make some marks there. That's what I'm going to say we're going to turn through. You're going to do a 3/8 of a seam allowance from here all the way up, and then again from here all the way down. Turn it out and press it. I'll be right back after we do that. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've done my stitching. I'm using a black woven interfacing and of course a gray thread, so it's not really easy to see. So what we want to do now is trim the seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, except for this bottom part where we will be turning. So I'm just going to take a ruler. You can eyeball it as well. You don't need to use a ruler. Just make sure you don't cut your stitches. And I obviously need a new blade. And then what I like to do is just take my scissors, and on these corners, I just like to trim them down a little bit without cutting the stitches. It just makes for sharper corners in the end. So like that, see how I tapered them off? And then you can turn it right side out through that hole. poke out those top corners. You can use your finger or you can get a pen and stick it in there. I think I can do it with my fingers. Not too bad. You can see how cutting those corners made them nice and sharp. And then you're going to take this to your iron. You're going to turn in that seam allowance like that as well and press it. We will seal that up in a second. Okay. And we're going to press it. And then on the side that has the turn hole, we're going to go ahead and top stitch along that with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to go ahead and do that offline. Okay, so I have done that. It's all nicely top stitched and there is no open edges now. So next I went and I marked the centers of one of my main lining panel pieces. You can kind of see my fold line there. You take a grid ruler and we want to place this 4 inches down from the top. Hard to see on here. Okay, let's use that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then take your slip pocket piece, fold it in half, so you know where the half mark of that is. Place it right along that line and even with the ruler, and then flop it open. And then just double check that you have your center right. So that's 2 inches there. And not quite 2 inches there. I'm just going to scooch it over. 1 7/8. And 1 7/8. There we are. I think we're about right there. We want it to be nice and even and centered. 2.5. And that looks good there. And then I'm going to just take some pins. I've got to grab some. Hold it into place so it doesn't move. And then I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to top stitch, not this top part, but down 3 sides, side here, the bottom, and back up again with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So there we go. We have a slip pocket and that's all done. And actually, without noticing it, my lines, well, they're a little bit off, but they actually matched up pretty good. So you can put that panel to the side, pull out your other main panel piece and your zipper pocket facing. Let me find out where it is in here. There it is. So it should be the same. Your zipper pocket facing should be the same width as your main panel. So what we want to do is take your ruler and we want to go 2 inches down from the top. And we want to place our zipper facing right sides together on top of the main panel there. And I'm just going to hold it in place with these clips here. So it doesn't go anywhere. Just trying to see what our measurements are here. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to take our ruler and match the bottom of our facing there and take a pen. I'm just going to use a friction pen. And we want to draw a 7-inch line. So I know this is 11 inches long, so we want to go in 2 inches on each side. It didn't work. My pen is not working. Let's try this one. Okay. So I don't know if you can see that there, but it's right there. And then at 1.5 inches from that bottom, so 1 inch and then 1.5 inches, you want to draw a parallel 7-inch line. You can see that a little bit better. And then what we're going to do is we are going to go and stitch along these lines at the machine, and then we'll come back. All right, so I've gone ahead and done that. There's my 2 parallel sewn lines. Now what we want to do is, these are 1/2 inch apart. We want to go 1/4 inch, and we want to do a 6-inch line down the middle. So go ahead and mark that. Come a little bit over, just to there. And then you want to draw a line from the 6-inch to up to where the stitching ends to create your V. So this doesn't have to be perfect. Like that. And then I'm going to take my rotary cutter and cut along that straight line. And then take my scissors and cut to the diagonal lines, not quite to that stitching. Do not cut through the stitching there. If you hear noise upstairs, my family's waking up. Everybody works night shift except for me, so I hear life upstairs. So. And then what we're going to do is we are going to push the, now that we're all cut here, we're going to push these through the opening to bring the facing and the main panel wrong sides together. Like so. We're going to take this to the iron and we are going to press that seam nice and flat. All right, so there's that. Usually I don't show how I do my lining zipper pockets, but I am showing this time because this is different than the usual method I use. So showing you how it's done. So that is all complete. You can put that aside for now. Now you want to take your 2 zipper pocket linings. These are the ones where one is longer than the other. So we want to take the one, let me just double check. We want to take the one that is the tallest of the 2 and place it on our mat. I also went ahead and grabbed the 8-inch zipper. I actually cut my zipper a little bit longer just because when I'm sewing it, I want to be able to push my pulls out of the way to sew, and then I just cut it up to where it needs to be later. So I'm just using zipper tape from Emmeline Bags. So we want to place this down where the zipper pull when closed is closed to the left. Okay, and then I am going to grab, so along the top of this, I am going to put, this isn't in the pattern, this is just how I like to baste my zippers on, my 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape along the top. So we have our zipper lining right side up and our zipper right side up with the, well, that did not work, with the zipper pull closing to the left. Let's try that again. And if you hear snoring below me, it's my old dog Benny is underneath my table here taking a nap. So, okay, so I have actually stitched little stops at the end, whoops, at the end of my zipper pulls, so I can pull my pull all the way to the end out of the way and it's not going to go anywhere. And I like it to hang off at the side here. So now I'm going to stick this here, and I'm going to trim up both sides later on of my zipper tape because I've cut it too long. It just makes it much easier for sewing, and then you don't have to worry about pulling that zipper pull out of the way. That tape just does not want to go where it wants to go. Like so. And then I'm going to take that to my machine and baste that on with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Right, so that is on and basted. Now we want to do the same with the shorter pocket lining. Make sure it's the 8-inch piece. Yeah. And we are going to attach this one to the other side of the zipper tape. So I'm just going to flip this over like this for now. So now the zipper pull will be facing to the right. And then you want to make sure that the two linings are even on the side. Okay, and then we're going to take that to the machine and baste that with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so that is done. So now what you want to do is place it so your zipper pull is close to the left again, and your two panels should line up pretty good at the bottom there. So now what we want to do is grab some more double-sided tape, put it along the raw edges of your zipper tape, top and bottom. Like so. Move the tape. Oh my goodness, my zipper tape just does not want to agree with me today. Okay, it's okay that this is still out. We will pull this in when we seal up this pocket later. So now what we want to do is we want to center this. Make sure your zipper is nice and straight and centered in there. And even on the back, it looks like we're pretty centered. Where you want to be. So what we're going to do now is we have our zipper pocket facing down. So we're going to go and top stitch just along this top 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then we're going to move the pocket upwards like this. So it's up and out of the way. And then we're going to go and top stitch along the bottom, making sure the pocket is that way when you're doing the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and then I'll come back and show you how we're going to finish up that pocket. Okay, so that is done. I can tell you working with the stripes really trips you out when you do this. So now what you want to do, this is where you're going to want to pull your zipper pull, if you've done it my way, into the center, because we don't want to not have our zipper pull in here. If it's out here, we're cutting it off. So now what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over And this is going to be for turning. So what I like to do is I like to fold up about an inch on the bottom here of the bottom edges. And this is just going to give us a really nice seam when it does come time to turn it. You'll see how it works at the end. Okay, you can cut your zipper tape to match the lining pockets now. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to pull this back like so. I'm just going to double check it here. Yeah. So you want to pull this lining part back, and we are going to sew down the side, these little triangles right here. You want to make sure you catch that in your stitching, and we're going to seal up the sides of our pocket piece, leaving the bottom open on that edge there. So you're going to sew all the way down this side here to the bottom. On the other side, you're going to flip this over. Same thing. You're going to start here, sew up, and then make sure you catch these little triangles in your sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done that. So because we didn't do any top stitching down the sides of these zippers, it's very, very important that you catch those triangles, because that's what's going to kind of close off that edge. So you can see my stitching goes, I caught my triangles all the way down this side, and I did the same on this side, making sure that triangle was caught. Now we can take that facing and we can trim it up to be the same as the pocket. And then where we left the pocket open on the bottom, you can now take it and kind of turn it out and onto itself. Like so, and give that a really good press. And then when it comes to turning the bag or closing up the bottom of the bag, this just gives it a really nice finish to top stitch it shut. So go ahead and press that, and then we'll be back. All right, so we have our zipper pocket done. We have our slip pocket done. Now we are going to put the lining together the exact same way that we put the exterior together. So you're going to take one of your main lining panels and one of your side panels, match up the edges, Now the only difference we're going to do when we sew this is we are going to start at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then when we get further down, we're going to branch out into a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. That's common practice in most linings and bags, and it just makes it so it's a tighter fit. So I'm actually, and then once you've done that, just like you did the lining, you're going to open up the seams, and then you're going to top stitch down both sides. I'm not going to show that on camera. I'm going to go ahead and assemble this on camera or off camera, just because it's exactly the same as the exterior. So yeah, the only difference is make sure that towards the bottom you branch out to 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we will come back and put the two panels together. Okay, hopefully my dryer's not making too much noise, or my washer. My husband's doing his laundry, and the washing machine's right behind me. So I apologize for any background noise that may be there. So I've done the lining. It's one big tube now. It's all connected. I think I forgot to mention in the hardware thing that you'll need a magnetic snap. I apologize for that. Yes, you do need a magnetic snap for this bag. So that's the point we're at right now. What you want to do is find the centers of each of our front and back panels. So match up your seams like this, fold it in half, and then I just like to make a clip. You can use any marking tool you like a pen or a chalk or whatever, but I like to just do a small snip because they don't fade away. Do that again on the other side. This side's a little bit harder to do because we got that pocket there. And I think the pattern wants us to do this now just in case our seam allowances are a little bit off. Then we make sure that our magnetic snaps will match up. All right, so I'm also going to just kind of press it down that center to make a little bit of a crease there so I can see that center. And I'm going to, we want it, okay, so we want to place this magnetic snap 1.5 inches. So you're just going to measure down at that center mark, 1.5, and make a little dot. I don't know if this one will show up. 1.5? Yeah, well, right there. So that is where I'm going to place my magnetic snap, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Go ahead, install your magnetic snap as per the manufacturer's instructions for your hardware. At the same time, off camera, I'm going to fix my, or put my my logo metal nameplate onto my exterior. You'll want to do that right now if you're putting a handcrafted or your logo on it. I'm also going to install the purse feet on my bottom exterior panel at this point off camera. If you need to see how I install the purse feet, I do have a tutorial of that on my Bag Makers 101 playlist. So pop over there and see if you're not sure how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, install that hardware, and then we'll come back and we're going to cut the lining, box the corners. You'll see what that is in a little bit. Okay. All right, I have installed my magnetic snaps. Now can't see it here, I did put a piece of Decovil Heavy to help secure that a little more, and then a piece of duct tape just so the prongs don't wear at the exterior or what have you. So that's what it looks like. They're in there good. Actually, I think I'm just going to sometimes I like to just take a hammer just to make sure they're in there really good. I'm always paranoid about them coming out. So yeah, they match up perfectly. So you want to do up that snap. We want to match our seams here. You can see my cutting was a little bit off right here, but that's okay. We can make that up in the end. It's just the lining. So now what we want to do is we want to make sure it's all centered. So I'm just going to put you can see here I'm a little bit off as well. I did not cut my side panels very good. Okay. But we're going to cut much of that off right now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Actually, most of that unevenness is going to come off. So match up your seams here. Lay this nice and flat. And then what we're going to do, you're only going to do this on the lining piece. You are not going to do this on the exterior piece. So yes, just the lining, not the exterior. What we're going to do is we're going to cut out corners here. So what we want to do is mark 3 inches up and 2.5 in. 2.5 and 3. I'm just going to take my Choco and draw that line there, and then cut it. Again, do not do this on the exterior piece, just the lining. The reason is our exterior has a bottom piece, but our lining does not. Our bottom for our lining is going to be a box corner. And that's what we're creating right now. So 3 inches up, 2.5 inches in, 3 inches, 2.5. So, and then cut along those lines. So it looks like that. And then our next step is we're going to take our lining, or our exterior and our lining. So you can see I put my nameplate here as well. And how are we going to do this? I want my exterior. Okay, we want to put them right sides together. So, and do your snap here. So they are inside each other. This is almost like in a regular bag, like any other bag where you're putting them together, except for our bottoms are open. And you'll see why. We need the bottom open in order to put that middle divider pocket in there. So right now we are going to make sure that your rectangular rings are facing down. I should have trimmed my, oh, there we go. Match up your seams of the lining and the exterior. And I'm just going to put 2 wonder clips there to hold it. And then I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to do this for all 4 of the seams first. I'm going to go and I'm going to match those seams, and then I know everything is nice and centered. And match up these seams here, rectangle rings down. Trim up any threads that you may have. I always mean to trim my threads as I go, and I never do. Okay. Match up those seams. And then go ahead and secure everything else. Do not be afraid to use lots of clips to hold it in place if you want to. Oops, that's a broken one. Okay, so go ahead and finish clipping that all the way around, matching up your lining and your external raw edges, and then we're going to take this to the machine and sew it together. All right, so I have it clipped all the way around. So now we're going to go all the way around the top edge with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now when you get to these side pieces, they may be a bit tricky. There's going to be lots of pivoting and all. If you have problems keeping a steady seam allowance, go ahead and mark it at 3/8 so you have a guide. I'm going to attempt to do it without doing that. I do have my piece of washi tape here to mark where my 3/8 of a seam allowance is. So I am going to go ahead and I am going to sew all the way around. I'm going to put it in time lapse, but you can still see what I am doing here. So let's go. Good luck, everyone. Okay, so that is done. The trickiest part is actually in these corners here, trying to get the nice 90-degree turns and all, but I think I did okay. So now we want to trim all this down to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm actually going to take my pinking shears, and on these corners, just on the curves, I'm going to use pinking shears on the curves, and then just my regular scissors everywhere else. I'll do 1/2 with you, and then I'll go off camera and I will finish the rest off. So pinking shears on the corners, and then 1/4 inch everywhere else, but on these straight stretches here into these corners, what we want to do is we want to do a 1/4 inch here. Careful not to get too close to your stitching. Like so. And then what you want to do is we just want into these corners here, we just want to slip up, do a little slip, not.
I'm not sure about that.
And my Alexis is talking again. We want to clip right, like just like that, not through the stitching, but as close to the stitching as you can get. And what that's going to do is going to make it, when we turn it out, it's going to give us a nice corner there. So go ahead and trim your seam allowances, use your pinking shears on all the corners, clip those corners, and then we will come back and do the top stitching. All right, so I've trimmed my seam allowances, I've clipped my corners. Now we can turn this part right side out. So just reach in and pull the lining and the exterior wrong sides together. Reach in and poke out your seams and your corners. Just like so. Now you are going to notice that these are different lengths, but that's okay because we are boxing these corners. We want them to be different lengths. So we are still leaving the bottom open, but what we're going to do is we're going to finger press. Make sure you got all your corners good. Finger press the top here, all along that top seam. Put in some clips to guide it. And what we're going to do is once we get all this, we're going to top stitch the whole top of the bag. So it's the same idea as when we were sewing. You're going to be very careful pivoting around these edge corners here to get a nice top stitch. Take it really slow. Make sure everything is poked out well. Now it shouldn't be too hard, as this is different than say with a bag. This would usually be the last step of the bag, which it isn't with this one. But because the bottom is open, the bag is much more maneuverable, if that makes any sense. So yeah, go around, finger press your lining and your exterior all around there. Make sure everything is poked out, and then go along and top stitch around the whole edge with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Take it slow around the corners. Make sure your pivots are sharp, and then once that's done, we will come back to put the bottom on the exterior of the bag. All right, top stitching is all done all the way around the top of the bag. Take a deep breath, have a cup of coffee, have some water. That part is done. All right. So now what we want to do, so again, your lining should be hanging down below the exterior. That is what we want. Now we want to find the centers of our main panel. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to match up my seams again, and I'm just going to make a clip for that center on both sides. So not on the lining, just on the exterior. Match up your seams and clip that center. Now we also want to do that on these side panels. So again, I'm going to match up the seams and then make a small clip on that side panel there. Oops. Again, match up the seams of the exteriors and make a clip. All right, now this is the part that makes me the most nervous about this pattern. Again, this is my first time making this. That might not have been the smartest thing in the world for me to do, but hey, I'm up for the challenge. Okay, so let me just double check. Lining panels. Okay, so we want to match up our centers here on the bottom. Of course, I don't have any clips here. Okay, so I'm just going to clip some of these, hold it in place, and then you're going to take rivet guide number 1. You're going to match up that center mark like so. Grab another thing here and line it up. My stitching was a little bit off right there, but that's okay. Okay, and then we're going to punch holes where these marks are. Match this up a little bit better. Just on the one side. Okay. And I'm going to be brave, and you want it to go through your lining and your exterior. So I'm going to take my punch and punch it through. And the same on the other side. So this is the part I'm the most nervous about, because now I'm putting holes in my lining, but I'm sure it'll all work out fine. We can take that off. I'm just going to make sure my hole went all the way through both. And it did. And it did. And those will be marks for when we add the center pocket on. So go ahead and we will do that again on this other side. Line up that center mark. This side, you can tell my seam was a little bit better. All right, and then punch your holes through the lining and the exterior again. Okay. Whew. Again, this is the part I've stressed out the most with this, is putting those holes through there. So hopefully they will line up later. So I'm just going to make sure they've gone all the way through with my awl, and they have. So you can see my 2 holes there. Okay, so the next thing you want to do, and I said I already did it, is install your purse feet. She does give measurements in the pattern where to put them, depending how many you want to put on it. And yeah, I do have the tutorial on how to install purse feet if you wanted to check that out in my Bag Makers 101 playlist. Okay, just trying to figure out the easy way of doing this, because we want to attach the bottom. Another thing you want to do on the bottom pieces is make these little 3/8 of an inch squares on all 4 corners. So make sure you've done that. Then we kind of want to turn this sort of inside out, I guess. Keeping the lining panels out of the way. And then what we want to do is, along this main panel, we want to line up the centers of our bottom, right sides together with the exterior, making sure your lining is pulled up and out of the way. We do not want to sew that in. So for this one, we actually are just sewing the long side. We are not sewing the short sides. The short sides are where we will sew those together when we are attaching our middle zipper panel for that middle pocket. So go ahead and clip these. Got to get my Wonder Clips from the other room. All the way across. Same for the other side. Okay, so I'm going to take this to the machine, and I'm going to sew along the bottom here, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, but I'm going to start and stop where this little square begins. So I'm only going to sew to there, all the way across, and then stopping at this one. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be back. Okay, so that is done. So we got the one side on. Now the next thing you want to do is not on your bottom piece, just on, oh, this is a mess here, just on your main piece. You're going to kind of flip it up like this. You're going to take your scissors, and just before the end of that stitching, not cutting into the stitching, you're just going to put a little snip, so on the main panel. So just where that stitching is about to end right there, and do that on both sides, not clipping into the base, just clipping into the main. So we got that done. Then you're going to flip it over, make sure the lining's still out of the way, match your centers, clip across, wrong way. Push that down in there. You'll see that those centers on the sides are going to match up, but we're not sewing up those sides. Not just yet. it should fit really good in there. So again, you're going to take this to the machine. You're going to sew it this way down. So your main panel is on your machine, and you're going to sew from the 3/8 mark all the way across to the other 3/8 mark, and then do the little snips, and then we'll come back for the next step. All right, so our bottom is done. We have the sides open, which is what we want. We want to keep those sides open, and the exterior part is done. Now we're about halfway through. Take a deep breath. Good time to take a break if you need a break. Yeah, so now we're going to start working on the middle zipper pocket panels. So what you're going to want to do is take your upper main zip panel and a ruler. I think I'm going to grab my longer ruler. Okay, and we want to draw a line 1 1/8 of an inch along both long sides. One. And I can tell I'm not super evenly cut here. I'm just going to trim that up. So 1 1/8. And I'm going to have to trim this up a little bit. My cutting was a little bit crooked. So I'm going to just do that quickly. Just even it up. That's all good. Okay, and then do the same on the other side. 1 1/8 up. Oops. I slipped a little bit. Try again. All the way across there. So once you have that line, I'm just going to go like this so I know I'm not following this line. And then you want to take your zipper facing and we want to go 1 3/4. Okay, first we're going to mark 1 1/2 inches in from each short side. And for this one, I'm just using a friction pen because this is cotton and I don't want it to show or soak through. So 1 1/2 in from each short side. And then we want to go 1 3/4 of an inch down from each long side. And just mark it to where that other line we just drew goes, like that. And same on the bottom, 1 3/4. That looks like it got a little bit off there. And 3/4 I did get off there, okay. Okay, so you have something that looks like, if you can see it, it might be a little hard to see, but we're making area to do a zipper. All right, so you want to repeat, I almost forgot to do this step, you want to repeat what we just did on the wrong side. We want to do it on the right side, and I'm actually going to use my Choco on the right side because I'm going to be able to see it better and it'll be easy to wipe away. So I want to go 1 1/2 in in on this side. Oops. And again, my husband just turned on the dryer. I apologize, I didn't stop him in time, so if you hear that in the background, my apologies. My sewing room's kind of in the laundry area, so. Okay, so 1.5 inches in from each side. And then in between those lines, we want to go 1 3/4 of an inch down. Quarters of an inch down. And then 1 3/4 of an inch up. Did I do that right? 1 3/4, 1 3/4. Okay, and I'm actually just going to go 1/2 inch down from that middle line. That's just easier for me. And I'm just going to make sure that we fall within the same lines. And we do. Okay, sorry, I went back and I remarked it just because my marks, I couldn't see them and they weren't staying. So now we want to take, I'm actually going to grab a 1/4 of an inch tape. So our marks on the back and the right side should line up. So on the right side, we want to take some 1/4 inch tape and put it inside that 17-inch rectangle we just drew, trying to keep it away from the lines we drew. Like, oops. So, okay. So now it doesn't matter that we can't see those marks. I've wiped them away again. Okay, then you're going to take your upper zipper panel. And we want to measure in 3 3/4 from one side, like so. And we want it to be centered. 3 3/4. We're going to take the tape off. On the wrong side of your... Okay, so we're going to keep it 1/2 inch from the long edge. So I'm actually going to just, sorry, I'm reading the pattern at the same time. I'm going to put another ruler there as a guide because we want it to be 1 inch from the long edge and 3 3/4 from the other side. The measurements are important to get. We're going to put them right sides together. Lining it up. And pressing it down to stick that tape. So it should be 3 3/4 from this side, and it is, and it should be about 1/2 inch from the bottom, and it is. That was way more painful than it needed to be. It really isn't a hard thing to do, but I was just having a hard time marking it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this to machine. You're going to use a smaller stitch length. It says to use a 2 to 2.5. On my machine, I'm going to use a 3 because that's what I usually use for my stitch length. And just like when we do zippers, we're going to sew along that 17-inch rectangle that we marked out. I'm going to go do that and then we'll come back. Okay, so I have done that. So the next step is we want to mark again, a 1/2 inch in from each side. It's just like how we do zipper pockets. That's exactly what we're doing right now. 1/2 inch in on each side. And then we want to mark a line 1/4 of an inch up, which is halfway between the two. Again, I wish I had a better marking pen for on the fabric, but it is what it is, I guess. And then do your V's up to the corners. Like so. And then we're going to cut along that line, just from the 1/2 inch mark to the 1/2 inch mark. I'm going to take my rotary cutter to do a lot of it. I think I'm kind of wishing that for this facing I had used a black fabric, because then it wouldn't show so much, but this will be fine too. Okay, and then you're going to take your scissors and cut up, not quite to the stitches. You don't want to cut into your stitches. Like so. So we got our little V's there. Okay, and now just you want to push. Let me just double check. Yes, we want to push all of this through to the wrong side. Now we can't press it because one side is vinyl, unfortunately. So what we are going to do, see how it's going to go around like that. This is where I said if I'd used a black fabric, for this I'm going to have a little strip of silver. It's going to be okay, but I kind of wish I used a black fabric. Okay, so we're going to take some double-sided tape. We want to, place this. I'm actually going to use my 3/8 tape. We want to place double-sided tape along this line about 1/4 inch or so away from our stitching. And what this is going to do is it's just going to hold that facing in place because we can't press it open. Like so. And I'm just going to start with one side. So I'll remove the tape on one side. And then I'm going to bring this around and stick it down. Make that seam. So that's all I'm doing is pressing the seam away. I'm actually going to try to make it so my fabric doesn't even show if possible. And stick it down to that tape. So take your time with this to make sure it looks good on both sides. Unstick it and restick it if you need to. I'm going to take a little bit of time to get that perfect, but you can see what we're doing is it will create this pocket like this. So go ahead off camera. I'm going to go ahead and I am going, just because this could take me a little bit because I want it to be perfectly placed. You go and do yours as well. Make it perfectly placed. And then we will come back for the next step when I'm done that. Okay, there we go. I have taped it all back. I have my edges until I'm happy. I was able to hide the majority of this color fabric, so it's not showing through here. Again, if I did this again, I probably would have used black just in case it showed. Some people like it because it gives a little bit of a faux piping effect as well. So it's completely whatever your preference is. So we can set that aside for now as we prepare our zipper. So for the next set, we are so close. We're getting so close to being done. You're going to need your 2 zipper guards, your 19-inch zipper. I've put my pull on it as well already, and your lower zip facing, or lower zip, what is this called? It's lower, oh, there's Miss Coco again. And your 2 central pocket linings. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to take these to my iron and I'm going to press them in half and then take them to my machine and just do a 1/8 of an inch top stitch along the top, the folded edge of these zipper guards. So again, you're going to press them in half and then go ahead and top stitch the folded edge of the zipper guards. I'm going to go ahead and do that and then I will be back. All right, so I went and top stitched my zipper guards. I mean, mine aren't pretty. It kind of look like they're all shriveled up. I'm on an industrial that does medium to heavy weight fabrics. I probably should have top stitched on my domestic, but I was honestly just too lazy to do that. This isn't going to be seen at all anyways. So what we're going to do with that next is I actually already did one of them. So this is the purpose of the zipper guard. So when we have this in our zipper or in our pocket, the pocket is only going to go from about here to here, but we want the zipper to end up being able to open all the way this way. So with this, we have like an open end on this side. So that makes it so the zipper can still freely close and it still has a piece of material there. So it's not showing the inside of the bag. So it's actually rather ingenious. I've never ever known to do that. So I'll do the other side with you. So what you want to do is take your raw edges and you're doing it on the wrong side of the zipper and you're going to line them up with the end. So you do want to make sure that your zipper is exactly 19 inches and then clip it to your zipper. Like so. And then you're just going to go down 1/8 of an inch down each side to solidify it. You don't go across here and you don't go across here, just down the sides for the length of the zipper guard. So go ahead and put yours on and then come back. We'll do the next step. All right, so there we go. We got our zipper guards on there. Make sure that is open so the zipper will be able to freely move underneath it, and that is good to go. Okay. Next, you want to grab your divider pocket linings, which are these funky pieces. They should be the exact same length as our zipper. So where is the tape I want? There it is. So I'm going to take my 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape. Hoping you can see this okay. And I'm going to put it along the top edge. Very much how we do a regular zipper pocket. I like this 1/8 of an inch tape just because you won't be able to see it on the zipper after. It's very small, but it does the trick. It's nothing worse than using one and then you don't quite get your seam allowance right and you have the sticky tape showing and can't always get it off. Okay, so take off. Come on, stick on there. This double-sided tape doesn't seem to be as good as my last stuff. This is just something I got on Amazon, but it's posing to be a problem for me, it looks like. There we go. Stay. Then you're going to take your zipper, and it should be the same length, so you're just going to stick it all along the top, so it's right side and wrong side together. Both the lining and the zipper are right side up. Attach them together. And they're exactly the right length, which is good. You can also use clips to hold it in place, of course. Okay, and then I'm going to take this to the machine and stitch that with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the same with the other panel on the other raw edge. So go ahead and do both of those, and then very much like how we did the zipper pocket, and then come back and we will move on to the next step. Okay, so here we have both attached to the zipper. So now what we want to do is we want to clip together these raw edges. We want to put this together now. So we're going to leave this side open. We're going to clip down this way. And on this side. So we don't want to sew up this part because we want this part of the zipper to stay nice and flat. We're in the home stretch. It feels so good to have this done. Okay, and then down the sides. And along the bottom. So now to close up this pocket, you're going to take this to the machine, and these short little straight marks here, we're going to do 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we're going to pivot and we're going to do 3/8 down the side, the bottom, and up the other side. And then when we pivot here, we're going to go back to 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on. All right, so that's all done. So now we're going to go and trim these seam allowances down to 1/4 of an inch, as well as in these corners here, just so we get a sharp, we want to just snip without cutting the stitches. You just want to do a clip like that so it has a nice sharp corner in there, and then trim everything else down to 1/4 of an inch. And into this corner as well without cutting the stitches. Just like so. So now what we want to do is we want to take our double-sided tape again. I'm using the 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to put a strip of it on both ends here. You know what? I'm not trusting this 1/8 of an inch tape because, I don't know, it's just not as good as the stuff I got from Emmeline Bags. So I'm going to use the 1/4 of an inch and put it along the top. Like so. And then the same on the other side. I apologize for my dogs. We aren't able to take them outside to run off steam because it's like -5 outside and it's cold, and can't go to the dog parks because not only is there COVID right now, but there is the parvovirus is going around. So, all right. So what we're going to do now is we are going to take our main zipper, upper zipper here, And we're going to do one side at a time. Okay, so I'm going to take off just the top tape. Come on. Like this. And our facing should almost be the exact same length, which it is. So you want to center that on. Okay, this is where you're going to play with it to make sure you get it looking where you want it to be. Remember to keep your zipper pull pulled into it because you don't want to cut it off later on. Let's see how we are on this side. I think we're looking pretty good. See, I'm having issues with my tape today. Man, oh man. Okay, and then once you have that where you want it to be, okay, I have a piece of tape fell off, yes. Okay, pull my pull in. You want the zipper to be nice and centered. That looks pretty good to me there. So now I'm going to take the second piece off. And position it as well. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. So now what we're going to do, I'm not going to show this on my machine because I can't get the camera quite at the right angle to show what I am going to do, but it's just top stitching like we do everything else. So I'm going to start at the top here and do a 1/8 of an inch top stitch, come down here. But before I do this bottom, you want to make sure that you flip the pocket the other way. Otherwise, you're going to close it off. So make sure you pop it the other way to do this side, back up, and then you're done. And then it's going to leave the pocket hanging in the middle like that. All right, so again, you have the pocket facing this way when you do the top around this side. And then when it comes to do this side, you want to make sure you flip it over so the pocket is out of the way this way, and do the other side. So go ahead and do your top stitch. All right, so we're at the point now of lots of marking. I actually went ahead and did it just because I know my pen marks don't show up very well. So on your lower zip panel, follow the measurements in the pattern and create these markings. And same with on the divider pocket exterior. On the back, you're going to go 5 7/8 from here. So in the center, we have marked a 2 3/4 box. And then on the opposite side, You're going to measure 7/8 up, and I believe this was, I don't remember what this was inside, but follow the measurements, and this, I've just put a piece of double-sided tape there. So it's very similar to what we were doing with the main zipper panel part, so that's what we need to do. So yes, just follow the markings, get them on there, and then follow along to figure out what we need to do next. Once you're done all of that marking, you're now going to take your lower zipper panel, put it right side up, and we're going to do a couple more markings. You're going to measure 6.5 inches in from the short ends. Where is my Choco? So yes, there's lots of marking in this step, but I don't really want to share the measurements and everything in this video, so it's just best to mark them as per the pattern. All right, and then what we're going to do is take this panel, take off your double-sided tape on the front here. Okay, and then on the back, we're going to line up that 2 3/4 lines that we did right along that 6.5 inch mark there. And press it down and make sure it's even on the other side as well. And press it down like so. On here, we have our 1 12 inch rectangle. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go and we're going to stitch with the smaller stitch length that 1 inch rectangle. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back. So that box is sewn. Now you want to flip it over, and we're going to do some more marking. So a 1/2 inch from each of the short lines of what we just sewn. And then we're going to go a 1/2 inch into the middle to split that in half, just like how we do zipper pockets. And then draw your V's into the corners. Just like so. And now we are going to cut that away. So just like we do a zipper pocket, you're going to cut down the center. And then cut into your V's without cutting your stitches. Again, be careful not to cut your stitches. I have done it many times doing zipper pockets. Okay, so now that we have cut those, this is a little bit different because we're not going to turn it through. But the seam here that we stuck down with the double-sided tape, we're actually going to trim that down to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Might have to pull it away if the double-sided tape, obviously I didn't have it centered quite right, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll be fine. This bag, you have to have your measurements almost dead on. That's what I am finding, as this is my first time doing it. If they're off even a little bit, things don't measure up properly. Okay. So we're not cutting the vinyl underneath. We're just cutting the lining. just like so. All right, I was wrong. You want to trim the lining or the vinyl part as well to 1/8 of an inch to the stitching. And then just like so. So it's cut away on both sides. Okay, now this is going to seem a little bit different, but trust me, it does work out. It's just the way that this pocket is going to be pulled through the bottom of the bag when it comes to finishing off the bag. So we want to finish off this this pocket. So you want to have it right side up, and this vinyl is going to be wrong side up. And you're going to fold it upon itself. Match up your edges and put them together. Actually, I lied. You want to kind of pull this down and out of the way. So I'm actually think I'm going to clip it because we want to be able to sew these sides here without sewing that panel there. Actually, maybe I'll go. So yeah, it's going to be hanging out somewhat. Match your edges. Stuff this in. So it's kind of hanging out the bottom there. Okay, now for this part, because I don't have markings on my machine, I am going to mark it on here. So that should be hanging out the top, which it is, like so. We have our bottom down here. I'm just going to put one clip there, make sure it's even. So we're leaving the bottom unsewn. But what we want to do for these sides is we want to start at 3/8 of an inch, work our way out. Oh, sorry, I lied. You're going to start at 5/8 of an inch, work your way into 3/8 of an inch, and then before we reach this bottom, we're going to curve down to 1 1/4 inch. So I'm actually going to make I'm going to make myself some sheet lines here, and then draw it out. So we're going to start at 5/8, which is like right there. And then when I reach about here, I want to be at 3/8, if I can make this match up. I'm going to be at 3/8. And then by the time I reach the bottom, I want to be at 1 1/4. So if I were to draw that out, you can just eyeball it too. I'm not very good at I can do 3/8 really well, but anything bigger, not so much. So we're starting at 5/8. We're going to branch out to 3/8 here. So we're doing 3/8, and then we're going to come down to 1 1/4. So we're going to have this kind of curved line that we're going to sew like so. So I'm going to mark that on this other side too. I'm sure there's many different ways you can do this. This is just the way I can think about doing it right now for myself. For a good visual. here. Okay, so to draw that line, it's going to be 5/8 down to 3/8 out to 1 1/4. So I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to close that pocket up by stitching down those lines I just made. It's going to kind of make this curved looking thing. So go ahead and do that, and then we will come back. All right, we are getting so close. This is a really, really long sew, but I think the end result is going to be worth it. So let's keep going. So marking out those lines worked really well for me as a guide. Now what we want to do is we want to trim those down to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So perfect. And then you want to turn that right side out. So now you've got something that looks like this. So this is going to be what's on the inside of your bag. This is the divider, and this is where the zipper is going to be. So I'm just going to quickly take this to my machine. Actually, I'm going to give this a little bit of a press, and then I'm just going to baste the bottom of this shut. Okay, I'm starting to get excited, and my workstation is getting messier and messier. That's okay. We're getting very close to the end. So what you want to do next is on your upper zipper panel, you want to go, and I've already done it, just cut the facing, this straight part here, away from those lines that we had drawn on the back. So we're going to need that as a guide. We want to be able to see them. So what we want to do is, this is the pocket we just finished, and we want to slip this inside like this, just like this. So when we open it up, just like so. Okay, so now we've slipped this in there. So we're going to put it up like this for now. And what we want to do is take our double-sided tape, and we want to put it in about 1/4 inch from this draw line that we did on the upper panel. And you want it to go the full length of the facing. We'll do one side first, and then we'll do the other side. Okay. Did I do this right? With the lower divider pocket. Okay, we are doing that right. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take the tape off, and we're going to take this and we're going to line it up on that line that we had drawn and stick it down with that double-sided tape. So this is attaching the lower zipper panel to the upper zipper panel. And we're doing it right along those lines that we made, and the tape is going to be what holds it in place for us. Oops, let's try that again. So take your time to get it accurate. to go ahead and do the other side the same way. The tape about 1/4 inch on the inside of that line. Double-sided tape is definitely your best friend with this bag. So if you're keeping it 1/4 inch in, it's probably going to keep it out of the seam allowance if you're doing this on a domestic machine. Okay, and then I'm going to match this along that line as well. So now we have something that looks like that. If you open up your pocket, you're going to see there's our pocket there. Okay. Now we're going to need more tape again. And we're going to put it along the outside long edges of our upper zipper facing. Again, try to keep it within just below 1/4 of an inch. So we try to keep it out of our stitching so it won't gum up your needle too badly. And I need another roll of double-sided tape. Okay, please hold. I have a whole cart of double-sided tape. This one's a little bit thinner, but that's okay. Okay, so I think I'm going to just put my bowl there just to hold my lining up of this, so it's not flopping on me. Bear with me, I just want to make sure I tell you the right thing to do. Okay, so we're going to remove this tape. We'll do this side first and then we'll do the other side. What we're going to do is we're going to fold it in, and we want it to sit as close as we can to that pocket. So it's going to go like that, and that's going to hide any of the wrong sides. So you want to get it nice and close, and then continue it down. We may get some dog noise here. Coco and Benny are visiting. They want their supper, but that's not till 3 o'clock. Okay, so again, tuck it in right close next to that pocket. I'm going to put this one up a little higher. Take your time to get it really good and really right. So it looks like that. You're going to go and do the same on the other side. So I'm going to just kind of push that way. That's my empty one. Okay, remove the tape and fold it in again, really close as you can to the bag lining, to that pocket. Oh, that's sticky tape. All right. So that's what we end with, just like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch down each side. And then we'll come back. Okay, so we are done. We have a functioning pocket, which is awesome. So now what we want to do is we want to punch our rivets on this side. So you want to grab your rivet guide number 2 and you're going to line it up. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, so we're going to line this up with where our zipper ends here. Let's see if I can bring you in so you can see what I'm doing here. And line it up along there. I'm going to actually take a couple clips just to hold it in place. I am so impressed that it actually measures right. I'm so proud of myself. Again, this is one bag that I probably should have done a practice bag first. I was just so excited to make it, and I figured if I did a tutorial on my first time doing it, that maybe it would show some things that you may come across the first time you're doing it and help you avoid them. I don't know if it's true, if that works, but that's what I'm going with today. Okay, so you can either mark it and rivet it, but I am actually going to just, well, not rivet it, I'm going to just punch through the markings here. So I'm going to take my rivet press, hand press, and then just go through. And you want to make sure you're only going through the vinyl, not through the pocket there. So I'm going to mark or punch out all 6. Okay, and then the other side. So, and then I'm going to take my awl and just make sure, oh, they look like they all go all the way through, so yeah, I can see through the holes. They all went all the way through, so that's good. This one could probably be a little bit more. Okay, and then you want to do the same on the other side. Let's move it over a little bit. So take your time to make sure you get this right where you would want it to be. Okay, and then punch those holes. Just make sure you don't catch the pocket in that. You do not want holes in your pocket. And they look like they went all the way through. So there we are. We have them all punched and ready to go. Okay, I had to read through this a couple times to make sure I get it right. So you want to take your main panel and put it inside out, and then take your lining and just kind of fold it up and out of the way for now. Okay, so like this. So we have our bottom exposed here. Then you're going to take your pocket panel, and we want to put it in so the wrong side is facing us, so the pocket is this way. You also want to make sure you mark your centers on these, which I have done. So now you are going to stick this inside the bag here. So it's wrong side of the zipper pack. Oh, first, okay, figure out where your name tag is. That should be the front of your bag. So I have that on top, and then I want to make sure that my zipper pull, I almost did it wrong, closes to the left. So it's going to go in like this. So when it's out, it's going the right way. So my zipper pull closes to the left, and my logo is on top here. So now with the wrong side of the zipper panel to the right side of the exterior, we're going to stick it in. We're going to match up. This is the zipper panel here. We're going to match up our centers that we had previously marked on the bottom panel and on here. Clip that, and then we're going to also clip that side closed. Oopsies. Make sure you want to get them even so you catch all layers in the seam allowance. Lots of clips so it doesn't slip. And that's where that little clip in the main that we did earlier helps. It helps it lay flatter for this bottom piece. Okay, so that's clipped in, and then we're going to take the other side and do the same thing. So wrong side of the zipper panel to the right side of the bag, up and through. Match those centers. Center and center. Again, I'm using a really stiff vinyl, so it's kind of fighting me a little bit. Come on, up you go. There you go. Okay, so then we're going to take this to the machine. We're going to sew it this way so we can see our 3/8 lines. If you can see this. I don't know how to expand it, no. And you're going to sew from the box to the box again, bringing those 3 layers together on both corners. Okay, so my corners are done, making sure that the lines all meet up because we don't want any holes in the bottom of the bag. You can reach in and just kind of poke to make sure there's no holes in the bottom of the bag. And I think I am fine. So now it's up to you whether you want to trim the seam allowance. I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it long. And then you can turn your bag out. Again, mine is really stiff because I'm using a really stiff upholstery vinyl. I didn't realize it was upholstery vinyl when I bought it, but it's pretty. Trim off any threads you may have that were strays. Punch through your corners. Look how nice that corner is. Pretty nice. So I'm just reaching through the hole in the lining to poke those out. So I'm going to continue turning this and then figure out what my dog's barking at, and I'll be back soon. All right, so it's giving us an idea of what it's going to look like. It's turning out so much better than I thought it would for my first one. So now it's time to seal up the bottom of the bag. If you hear crunching, you probably hear that. I just fed my dogs and they're seriously right to the right of me. So we are like this. So we have this piece that isn't attached to anything, our divider thing, and our inside that isn't attached to anything. So we are going to open up this zipper pocket here. So this is similar to how I turn all my bags. Pull that zipper pocket out. And we're going to reach in and we are going to grab the front lining, the bag or the pocket lining, and the other side. And we are going to pull all three of those layers through this pocket. Oh, and I can see that's going to be, this might take a minute. And that is tough. But it's going to be worth it. Well, maybe not too bad once it comes. So keep pulling till you can get them all out of that pocket, those three layers. Okay, so I'm going to keep struggling with that. It looks like I have one side out, so I just got to find the other ones and pull them out as well. Oh, I feel the pocket there. Okay. So I'm going to go and keep pulling those out and come back once I have them, and then I'll show you how we clip them together. All right, with a little bit of struggle, I got there. No worse than struggling with turning a bag. It's actually almost exactly the same. So you can see here I have one of my lining panels here. Here's the divider pocket, and here is the other one. So the first thing we want to do is take our two linings and match up one end. Okay, hope you can see that. And clip it. And then take your corner of your divider pocket, and it's going to go about a 1/2 inch in, so right about there. And that is just because it's going to make it easier to box that corner, because we're going to be boxing these corners after, and we don't want that to get stuck in there with that box corner. So line that up about a 1/2 inch in and clip it. Go match the other side. I'm getting excited. Grab the other corner and about 1/2 inch in, line up those raw edges. And then start clipping them all together, matching all three layers. I guess it's almost 4 layers. Now I did go and pull this lining out a little bit. This is the lining of the zipper pocket. I found it just made it a little bit easier to do it. So I'm just going and lining up all 3 edges all the way across. I'm going to use a lot of clips because I don't want that divider pocket to slip. And I'm happy to say I wasn't even trying, but my seams all line up perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to put another one right there. Oops, get up there. Okay, so I'm going to take this to the machine. I'm going to pull this as straight as I can and stitch this with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, which is bringing together or closing up that bottom. Then I'll come back and show you how we're going to box those corners. Okay, so that is all done. Now what we want to do is box these corners. So you're going to find, I have to pull out a little bit more. We are going to pull them. You can see our 2 little, from where we cut our box there, and we're going to pull it like this. So see, we got our little notches here. Pull it like this together. And clip it. See, I'm trying to show here. Just closing up that box that we made when we cut it. Oops, broke a clip. And on this side as well. So that one's ready to go. And flip it around and find the other corner. Where are you? That's this one I just did. This side. There it is. Okay, so find where our square was and pull it tight like this. And oops, it's a little bit awkward, but actually this is probably the most fun I've had making this bag is this part. I actually really like this part, as weird as that may be, but I kind of do. Okay, secure that with clips. Down both sides. And then I'm going to take those and stitch them with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then at that point you can decide whether you want to trim this bottom seam. I'm not going to because I think it's just going to be too awkward to cut it, so I'm not going to do it. All right, so go ahead and box those corners. Okay, the excitement. Corners are boxed. I stuffed everything back in through the pocket liner, and then I top stitched the pocket shut, and we can shove that back inside. Zip that up. Let's see where we're at so far. So my inner pocket, it caught everything on the inside there. We're good. We're good on this side. I have no holes in the bottom of my bag, which is always a bonus. Okay. She's looking pretty good so far. So now, whew, the part that I find the most stressful. As you can see, she's going to be kind of a slouchy bag. It's not fully shaped yet. Now to do the rivets. And this is the part I'm most nervous about because I don't want to wreck the bag. Okay, so I will do one side with you. So how do I want to do this? Okay, so we already have this one done. So what we want to do is grab our, I'm going to kind of push this out of the way. Now we want to do, we already marked the holes on this one. We want to mark them on the main part of the purse. So I'm going to do, Cassia from CS Swag did it this way. Yes, I did watch her tutorial before doing this one. Thank goodness. Yeah, she has some different ways of doing it as well, which is great. So definitely go check out her channel as well. So I'm not going to set these rivets, but I am going to, where we punched previously, we punched holes in the main. I am going to just stick a rivet in there. Oh, sorry, I'm going to take the pattern piece, put the rivet in here, and put it through the hole we already, ooh, how satisfying when they actually line up. I'm just going to put the cap on, not setting it. I just want to hold it there so I can mark my other ones okay. Okay. So kind of pulling that out of the way, and I'm going to line this up along here, and it's going to give me an idea where I want to put those rivets. Okay, so I'm actually going to hold this in place, put it along there, and I'm going to take deep breaths. See, this is what I'm doing. I put that into that bottom one that we already did the hole. And now I'm just going to actually take, I have it lined up with that opening. I'm going to just take it, moment of truth, and punch it. And punch the top one too. Whew. And then just make sure it's gone all the way through. And it has, and this one's gone all the way through. Yep. Okay. I'm going to unpop that. And then go ahead and do this other side. So there, right there's the hole that we previously did. So I'm going to take a rivet, put it in my template, and put it through the holes we previously made, and they line up. You have no idea how satisfying that is. You will find out when you make them. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to actually line that up there, make sure it's lined up. Where's my bottom one? I'm actually going to hold this in place too. I want to make sure I get the right angle. So I'm putting one into that bottom one that we did before as well, just to hold it. Okay. So this is a little bit awkward, but it's going to be a good guide for us. There we go. Okay. Okay. So I'll rivet this first side with you, or the first couple anyways, and I'll do the other side off camera. Oops, I'll take these rivets out. Oh, this poor template piece, I'm destroying it. So yes, you will do the exact same thing on the other side, punching your holes. So now the next step is we're going to take our rivet and put it through this first hole on there, and then through our first hole on our lining. Oops. So I'm going to start with the bottom two, and I'll set them, and then I will work up and set the next ones, and then set the next ones. there and through that hole there. Okay, so you can hand set them or however you do it. I'm going to use my Gold Star press. Okay, I want to bring it right to the end of the table here. Excuse the messiness of my floor and my pajamas. I'm wearing dog pants. See, they got dogs on them. Anyways. Okay, we're going to kind of hang this over the table and set that first one. And she sets perfect. Thank you. This is the part of the bag I've been stressing about from the very beginning, and it's nothing to stress about. First ones are set. So we'll go through to the next ones. Put it through that second set that we created. Actually, for pretty stiff vinyl, it still ended up being pretty floppy, but I guess it's because there's no interfacing in it. So it could be a little more slouchy depending what you use. I think this would be absolutely amazing to do in cork. And I think even really amazing to do in more a faux leather. Be more like a suede look. Okay, so I got that second one. And I'm just using medium-sized rivets. They're 9mm by 8mm. 9mm head, I believe it is, an 8mm post. And they're from Emmeline Bags. Okay. Okay, and then we'll set those ones. Squish it all in there. You want to make sure it's centered because you don't want to wreck your rivet. Oh man. Okay, I'm going to go off camera and do this and then come back and show you the end result. All right, folks, here she is. I went ahead and I riveted on my handles. And do you know what? For my first one, she turned out pretty darn awesome. You flop her open. There we go. There's the interior zipper pocket. There's the slip pocket, zipper pocket. The rivets look amazing. Yes, she was pretty awesome to make. Anyways, I hope you guys all like this tutorial. If you did, please make sure you like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And I hope this was really helpful. Thanks everybody. See you on the next time. Bye.